I've got a whopping one slide, but I'm going to slip in a little hidden secret as well. So first thing, as far as an M365 goes, this is kind of a new interesting feature that Microsoft has rolled out. We've all heard of Net Promoter Score surveys that we send out. A lot of times those are for our customers to see how we're doing, etc. JourneyTEAM does this. Microsoft has incorporated the ability to send your end users NPS surveys, okay, about how your M365 world is doing and what their experience has been working inside your M365 tenant. And so kind of an interesting concept, right? That they've got the framework to do NPS to your end users inside your own tenant, okay? And you get feedback from end users about what they like and things like that. So be aware of that. Another little thing I didn't get in the slide deck, but I just want to mention, if you're in Word Online or Excel Online, you can now sign in to another Office 365 identity and switch identities inside Word Online or SharePoint or Excel Online inside the Office apps for the online version. Okay, so a couple of quick updates there on the cloud and just general M365 stuff, and I'll be back for more. All right, you've all been waiting for Azure AD updates, I know. A bunch of cool stuff coming up here. This is the combined security registration feature. Basically, in the past, Microsoft would have people enroll with multi-factor and enroll with self-service password reset, and there were two different experiences. If we've done a tenant health check for you, this is one of the first things we go turn on. Don't just go check the button though, because if your SSPR is enabled and you check this, now you've got people having to go through SSPR. And so you want to be aware of the pieces of the puzzle that turn this on. But since August of 2020, any new tenants have had this turned on. September of this year, it's going on for everybody. So be aware of that, that this is coming. It's a very good thing. And it gives you a significantly better user experience as they go through MFA enrollment, which now bundles the self-service password reset enrollment with that. Doesn't necessarily mean they can do SSPR, but because it's one enrollment experience, they are set up and ready to go for that if you choose to have SSPR as part of your offering there. Okay, so be aware of that. Good stuff there. Next is one of my favorite features. This is a game changer, everyone. So if you've been working with JourneyTEAM and you're on a project and we have you as a guest user in our tenant because you're part of a team and you're collaborating with us, right? You've loved us because we secure our tenant and you've had to enroll in JourneyTEAM's multi-factor authentication. What we can now do is we can trust MFA coming out of your own tenant as you access resources in our tenant, for example. This is part of the new external identities framework that Microsoft is rolling out. And it's very simple to turn on. We have enabled this in our JourneyTEAM tenant. And so if you're a guest user and you're interacting with us now, we will trust your own MFA. If you don't have MFA in your own home tenant, you will be prompted to enroll it before you can access a JourneyTEAM resource in our tenant. So this applies to any tenant-to-tenant, cross-tenant, B2B collaboration that's going on. The ability to trust the MFA state, not just MFA, but compliant devices is on the list and hybrid Azure AD join devices. So some great knobs and buttons here about trust settings across external collaboration between tenants. So I'm not going to get into the B2B collaboration there, but there's more stuff behind that door. That's the easy thing behind that door. All right, administrative units in Azure AD. If you don't know what an administrative unit is, don't feel bad. They're kind of these little minor used anomalies out there. But because they have this feature now, I see an uptick in how these are going to be leveraged in organizations. These are maturing enough so now we can support the auto population of the membership of an administrative unit. These are kind of like organizational units inside Active Directory where you can logically separate an audience of people into this container, if you will. Azure calls them administrative units, and now the membership of those can be dynamically populated based off user or group, or user or device, excuse me. Okay, so that allows you to delegate administration across the business for Azure AD users and groups and devices. Okay, so if you've got a pocket of people that want to manage these people and these devices, you can delegate that administration through this administrative unit framework, and then those people can do that, but they can't manage the whole tenant. They can just manage their little group of people or devices. That's the whole point of administrative units. Pretty slick feature now. All right, coming up after that, we've got this new report that you can pull to get your history on access reviews. So access reviews, if you have no idea what this is, it's because you may not have Azure AD P2. This is a identity governance feature to perform an access review on who has access to something, or who's in this group's membership, or who has this administrative role. You have to have P2, and they've now matured this so you can get this nifty little report that tells you what actions were taken by the reviewer, what times, what types of reviews were taking place, and those kind of things. So if you're doing or looking at identity governance, this is a slick little update there for viewing that history report. Okay. After that, we've got another one of my favorites, something I've been waiting for 2 years on. Ever since Microsoft rolled out passwordless authentication, which I'm a big fan of. That means when I log into Office 365, I don't have to type a password, okay? And that uses the Microsoft Authenticator app as part of that process. I put my username in, it sends me a push. I have to type in a number to match what's showing on the screen. I now see a map of where that login event is coming from inside the Authenticator app. That's all there today. And I could only historically do passwordless on one identity. So as a consultant, this was painful because I've got lots of accounts with different customers, and I had to do my password with MFA every time. So now I can enable those accounts to do true passwordless, and I don't have to even plug in my credential when I log into that. That's an update coming on the Authenticator app. If you're doing test flight, you can get it today, but it should be coming out by end of this month for general availability on the Authenticator app. So look for an update there. You do have to still go enable it inside the Microsoft Authenticator. You have to enable phone sign-on. That's the key word to get that turned on. All right. Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. MDA is what you may see it as an acronym. It used to be called Microsoft Cloud App Security. More name changes in Microsoft. This has been name changed for a little bit, but this now has 2 new alerting policies that are built into it. Mass access to sensitive files. That's not something that you want going on, okay? Sensitive files in a big dump, or some automated bot that's getting content or accessing this content that's sensitive. So that's an alert that could be triggered now in the MCAS policies. And then an unusual addition of credentials to an OAuth app. So these are service principals technically inside Azure Active Directory. These govern how third-party apps or homegrown apps can integrate and get data out of your environment. And so these are, if you get credentials, there's secrets on these things, client IDs and client secrets. And so this this MCAS policy will detect the suspicious activity around these service principals and help tighten that up. If I was a bad guy and I wanted to get to your data, this is the door I would go through as a service principal. I would not try to get someone's credentials and use their login. I would go through this door. So this alerting policy here to look at service principals and how those apps integrate is a great addition. We're going to talk about Exchange Online now. So the first thing to be aware of here is a little tweak Microsoft is making around license reassignment specifically for Exchange Online. In the past, you had this 30-day grace window, and if you revoke the license from a user, then after 30 days, they would get a brand new mailbox that's got a new GUID basically associated to it. And it's a whole net new thing. Today, the user, if you offboard a user and 30 days has passed, they will get back the same mailbox GUID, but that may not have any content in it, but it simplifies the re-onboarding. So basically, when you unlicense a user, Microsoft doesn't consider them as necessarily being offboarded anymore, and you can get that user's mailbox back. It may not have content. I don't want you to think that, cool, I can restore a user or bring back a user that left and it's been 60, 90 days and all their mail comes back. That's not necessarily the case, but the account GUID gets preserved and gets reattached in a simpler manner. And then here's just a little screenshot of if you've got how to remove data from a former employee, how to clean that out of the environment. So just Microsoft standard documentation there that kind of goes along with this. So just be aware of that little minor change on license reassignment in Exchange Online. Okay, next thing, this is kind of a bigger deal. Has to do with dynamic distribution groups. These are not dynamic Azure AD groups. These are just mail DLs. Classic distribution list, has nothing to do with security or Office 365 groups or anything like that. These are DLs. In the past, and historically, Exchange on-prem, when you would send an email to a dynamic distribution list, it would run a query at that moment of time, find the audience, send it to those people. That's kind of hard to scale for a bajillion mailboxes that are in Exchange Online now. And so what Microsoft is doing is they are doing that query for you and actually populating the DL. It behaves just like dynamic Azure AD groups, but now it's applied to DLs, okay? And Exchange will store the membership list instead of dynamically creating it at the time the message is sent. And the list will be updated every 24 hours. So when you build your dynamic distribution list and you go send an email to it, immediately don't expect it to be delivered because you got to wait for squirrels to run around in Microsoft's land to populate the membership of that DL based on the rule. Okay, so some pros and cons to it, but be aware that is a different architecture that Microsoft is deploying there. Okay, next we've got your last Exchange server. I've been wanting to have this conversation for 7 years now. Okay, with different customers. Microsoft officially supports the ability to turn off your last Exchange server and still manage recipients in Active Directory with their email addresses and proxy aliases and things like that. Okay, the way they're doing this now is they give you the ability to run Exchange PowerShell modules on your own Windows 10 or Windows 11 desktop. Okay, and you don't need that Exchange server for just administrative purposes. So if you've been one of our customers and you're like, I've moved all my mailboxes to the cloud, and why the crap do I still have to run this Exchange server on-prem and I want to kill it? And I've told you, you can turn it off, but guess what? You have to go to ADSI Edit or Attribute Editor to tweak proxy addresses. You might want to be interested in this, okay? And just be aware you don't want to uninstall your last Exchange server because that removes things out of the Active Directory environment that tell it that there is no Exchange here, and that breaks your ability to run the PowerShell commands because it doesn't think there's Exchange. So don't uninstall your last Exchange server. You literally just turn it off, and now you do your administration through PowerShell. I can talk to you more about that if you're interested in that, but this is a holy cow. It took them 7 years. And that's just my timeline. But literally, I've been waiting for this for a long, long, long time. So this is a pretty cool update. Okay. After this, we've got the reminder, the death of legacy protocols. This is really happening. I was on a phone call this week with a customer that has an old IMAP client that pulls mail out of a thing. And it's like, how do I deal with this? I'm like, tell them to upgrade their app. We've known about this since 2020. This is a couple years coming at least, okay? And so this will be shutting down October 1st, 2022. POP and IMAP access will stop unless your client understands modern authentication. Any version of Office, like Outlook and such, you're totally fine there. You shouldn't be using POP and IMAP anyway with Outlook, unless it's talking to something else. So SMTP support will still be there. If you need help getting off of your legacy protocols, identifying what they are, etc., we have a package option there. We've got workbooks that we will identify which accounts are using those and how often. We've got charts and reports that shows the burn down rate and how we need to focus on this. We've got a whole way to solve this problem for you. Reach out to us. We can help you with that. But this is still coming, and Microsoft has kicked the can down the road 3 times. I don't think they're going to change this date this time. October 1st is your favorite day to break legacy protocols. All right, enough on legacy protocols. Next, we've got Yammer. Back to Kip. Take it away.
I think the big question is everyone wants to know the mail client that individual was using with their IMAP. Was that group-wise or?
No, it was some third-party app that has a new version, but the business can't go to it. That whole story, right?
Yeah.
As a note on that, there are some black magic workarounds that we can make a legacy protocol still work to a client with doing moderate on the other side. Bigger discussion to
Worst
have,
case
but if you
scenario.
are in a corner and you are stuck, reach out to us. There may be an option there. Awesome. Unified Endpoint Manager, aka Intune. Okay, so this is kind of a new thing that Microsoft's doing. Some of you may look at it and say, another way to spend money with Microsoft, and you would be right. What this is premium add-ons is what they're calling it. And so the first premium add-on they have, it's actually kind of cool. It's a little pricey in my opinion, but it gives you the ability to do remote support, remote control with a native Microsoft solution. And so instead of going out to one of the many different third-party products that you can do remote control with, this is built into Intune. It's an add-on, you can license it, and it gets pushed out there with Intune, and you can do full-on remote control of the device. Okay, so that's kind of a new door there. Like I said, there's lots of third parties that you could do this. TeamViewer has a specific Intune integration that they had offered. And so this is something that we're looking at to see if that would help your remote support functionality with this premium add-on. Okay. All right. Other things with Endpoint Manager. For those of you that are on E3 licenses, we now have this auto patch service for Intune. This is a big deal. So this is the concept of continuous patch updates that are automatically deployed. And the frequency of these patches, like Patch Tuesday, that's going to start changing here. And you can apply these updates. It'll happen automatically behind the scenes instead of just a big patch every month or that's come along here. Okay, so auto patch service for Intune that's going to continuously deploy those patches, keeping software updates on your endpoints in place. So be aware of that coming, kind of a big change there. Next, we've got group policy migration. This is a big deal. It's a good thing that I don't care that we can work more efficiently at JourneyTEAM, and this saves you lots of time. When you are moving your model from administration out of group policy to native Intune managed devices, being able to take your GPO, import it to Intune, and then have it automatically build the policy for that is what's now available. My team has spent many hours analyzing GPOs and getting them to build policies that do the same thing in Intune. And now Microsoft has a way to automatically build that policy out based on the GPO setting. So kind of a slick update there.
So things where some base offerings that allow you to be able to get a lot of value no matter the size of the company you are, all the way up to where we're doing a lot more hands-on support and management of your environment for your end users.